Just discussed in the lecture, we came up with a series of parameters or ranges, and we said the tallest our cup would be is 10 inches, and we said the smallest or shortest in the z-axis is 0.5, a shot glass size. We said the widest would be 6 inches, and the narrowest would be 1 inch. So we have a large range right there, right? So how can we achieve this range? The best way to do that is through a number slider or a numeric slider. I'm going to show you two ways right now to open it up. One would be double click on the canvas. Start typing there it is, number slider, right? So you click it, and there it is, it popped up, right? That's it right there. You can see back and forth, right? Now, it gave us a default, right? It said between 0 and 1. So we didn't choose that. That's a default, right? Now I'm going to delete this. Another way you can find it, right, is, I thought it was right here. I do need the help button. Let's use the help button. I didn't show everybody that. Thank you. So I showed some people on the break a really cool function. Say for instance, I don't know where the heck the number slider is, right? Hold down Control and Alt at the same time on your keyboard, and you get a little icon that's an eye. So it's an information icon. So with your mouse, left click on any component. It was right there the whole freaking time. So now it's telling me where the number slider is. It's saying it's under parameters, under the input, and it's circling it right there. That's it. Number slider. Right in my face the whole time. You can do it for anything. So hold down Control and Shift and click, and you have to hold. As soon as you release your click, it goes away. Control and Alt. Press them together, hold them down, click on the component, hold down, and don't release. So have everything pressed down, and there it is. As soon as you let go of the mouse, it goes away. You could take off your other hand, and as long as you have your hand on the mouse, it'll still. Well, I moved. It went away. So that's a trick to know. It's going to be super useful. Let's say, for instance, in the case of right now, I wasn't sure where it was. I was able to double click the screen, type number slider because I know that's the name of it. I was able to open it, and I was like, okay, so where is it then? Right? Control and Alt, and then you click it, and there it is. It tells me exactly where it is, and I can remember that always. So there's a couple ways to open up a number slider, and I'm going to show you guys one more way to set a number slider. But let's first look at what is inside of a number slider. It has an actual dialog box associated with it. So everybody, let's double click the slider. And here's the dialog box for it. So this will allow you to name your slider depending on, sort of like in the grouping way where you can actually name your groups. You can also name your number sliders. You can also add an expression like a mathematical term to it, like maybe x minus 1. So those type of algorithmic functions. Just below that's the grip style. It's not really that important. It's just displaying functions, the way it shows itself. Okay, so those are the first three properties. Now next, under slider accuracy, we have the roundings. So if you highlight over it, or highlight over the R, you'll see it says floating point numbers. The one next to that is integer numbers. And can anybody guess what the E and the O is? Even and odds, right? So that can come into play at some point where maybe you want to just incorporate only even numbers. Maybe you're doing a pattern and you want only the even portion of a pattern. So that's where you could consider something like that. So you're wondering, what the heck does R have to do with anything, and why is it called floating point numbers? What it actually is talking about is rounding. and floating point numbers means that you can round it to a decimal place. So if you look just below this, you'll see it says digits. Digits allows you to choose how many decimal places you want your range to go to, so how accurate you want to be. You can move this to 2, and if you notice just below, you'll see how everything loses a 0. So you could potentially do something in the millions, right? You could potentially just do something that has just like an integer, right? Now, it's kind of redundant to put it on 0, because right next to it here is the integer number, and integer number, if you click that, your digits go away and it automatically chooses 1. And the reason why it chooses 1 is because it's an integer, and like I stated earlier, integers are whole numbers. So they don't deal with decimals. But if you want to deal with decimals, which we are going to deal with it because we want to be able to slide everywhere, not just at whole numbers, we're going to choose rounding. So below that, we have the numeric domain. So what this has to do with is your range. This is where you're able to set up your parameters, sort of what we have written down on the board here. You have your minimum, your maximum, and your range. So here you can go ahead and set numbers by double-clicking it, and you can set your number there. So let's say if our minimum was, for our smallest, 0.5, and you could hit the check mark. Now it's set it to 0.5, right? And we wanted our maximum to be 10. You could type 10 in there. So now we have our range set, right? And let's see if and that's pretty much everything we could go over in the slider. So let's just click OK. So now you see it set us at 0.5 as our smallest, and if you go ahead and slide this thing, you can see it's going by only 1 decimal place, right? Because we set it at 1 decimal. So it goes all the way up to 10. So its minimum is 0.5, which is what we set, and its max is 10. Back and forth, and you can slide everywhere between. Now, maybe you want more than 1 decimal place, right? So maybe we bring it to 2. So we'll bring it to 2 and we'll hit OK. Now when you slide this thing, it gives you everything in between. It becomes even more accurate. And you have more options to choose from. More variability. Right? So we got this thing going here. We have our slider here. Now that we have that done, I've shown you how to open up and view the inside of a slider and how to sort of set things up. A little bit on what everything does here. Now another way to set up a slider is you double click, and instead of searching for number slider, you literally are going to type in your ranges. So what's our smallest? 0.5? So let's type 0.5. Now the thing to keep in mind here is you need to go less than symbol. And now we're going to do 3 numbers here total. So we have our 0.5, that's our first. We're going to have a middle number. Then we're going to do another less than sign, and we're going to do one more number. So the first one is our minimum. The middle one is going to be what the slider defaults to. You could choose that. It could be anything. So let's say for now, we're just going to make it 1. 1 is in between 0.5, and let's do another less than, and between 10. So now we've got it. We got 0.5, less than 1, less than 10. The 0.5 is our minimum. The 1 is where the slider is going to start and default at. And the 10 is our maximum. So as soon as you do that, you hit enter, and there it is. We got a slider here. And you can see this one actually started itself on 1. So you're actually able to slide down to 0.5, and you can slide all the way up to 10. Now, if 1 decimal place isn't good enough for you, obviously you could do what I said already. You can open up the dialog box and you can change that. I'm not super concerned about it at this point. It's not going to really make a difference. So, is everybody, I'm going to pause the video and see if everybody's comfortable with that. Okay, so I got 2 number sliders here. Right now we only need 1. So the one that I made by double clicking on the screen is this lower one here. That's the one I'm going to keep. I'm going to delete this top one. So the range on this is 0.5 from the smallest and 10 to the tallest. What axis is this in? Is it in the X, Y, or Z axis? It's in the Z axis, right? So let's bring this thing on down here. And I'm going to actually ungroup this. And I am going to disconnect this guy. And I'm going to connect this guy. So I'm leaving the integer there just for the sake of knowing that you had an integer plugged in there. The integer was set at 0 or 5, right? Because that's how tall we wanted it. Well, now we have it set at a slider. So as soon as you grab this thing and you start to move it around, look, the cup's growing. It's getting tall. Here's our 10. There's our tall mug, right? That's our max height. And if you slide it all the way to the left, there's our shot glass size. And right now it looks funny because it's super wide still, right? Almost like a little dish. A little espresso dish that you put your espresso cup on, right? So you see how the variability in this right here is, it's much more flexible than Rhino is. We did take all the time in the world to build this, which you guys will get a lot faster at. And then as soon as you start connecting things like this into it, your ability to create things in Grasshopper and in Rhino is going to move that much faster. Okay, so now that we have our height going, I'm just going to, it doesn't really matter where it's at right now. We can keep it anywhere we want. Let's do another number slider. So this one, our narrowest was 1. Right? And we want to do less than. And where do we want this one to start? We could start anywhere. Do you want somewhere between 1 and 6, right? So maybe we want to do it at 2. It doesn't matter, as long as it's between. Now, hit another less than sign. And this is something I didn't discuss before on the last number slider. When we type in the 6 right now, if you do 0.0, you're going to get 1 decimal place. If you add another 0 to it, you're going to have 2 decimal places now. You see how this current one right here only has 1 decimal place, 3.7. You can't go 3.73, right? Because we're doing 2 here, when this slider comes up, you're going to be able to go to 2.73. So as many extra zeros as you add to the end of the last number on this is how many decimal places it's going to go to. I don't think you're going to need any more than 2. Maybe in the future. I don't see it though. So now look, it started at 2 and it's got the 2 decimal places. So there you see it. You have way more, options to choose from here than you do here. This is very whole, almost whole numbered, but it's not. This one has a lot more variability in it. So where do we want to connect this guy? We want to connect it to well, where did we connect this one? What is this? It's the point, right? This point that's green right here. So that's what we connected it to, and it allows that point to go up and down, which controls the circle. Sorry, right? So if that makes sense to everybody, this thing right here is connected into this, which is this point, which is connected into this, which is the circle across the top, which is connected to this, which is the loft between the two. So when you move this, you're telling every single one of these components what to do. And they're all following suit based off of your number slider. So we need to figure out where we're going to connect this guy, right? Well, what circle do we want to connect it to? We got 2 choices, right? Let's try connecting it to the bottom circle first, right? So, where are we going to connect it? We're going to connect it in the point. We're going to connect it in the circle. Where are we going to do this thing? What do we want to get larger and smaller?
Circle radius.
Circle radius, right? So this is the one right here. Right now we have it set at 1.25. So let's hold down Control and let's disconnect that number. And I'm just going to slightly move it out of the way. Bring this up over, and I'm going to plug this one in. Boom! Now the bottom of our circle has variability. So now we can start to grow it in this direction, right? And you can grow the top. And look, it's not even a freaking cup anymore, is it? And maybe you could bring it all the way down, and maybe you could bring it all the way down. Now, this almost is a shot glass. What are we missing? We need the top circle to shrink, right? So why don't we control and paste, right? Another one of those same number sliders, because we want the exact same variables, right? We want it to be between 1 and 6, and we want 2 decimal places. So where do we need to connect this? We need to connect this to the other circle. So let's remove this other guy here. And now that that's disconnected, let's connect this slider to this radius, right? So there we go. We got our shape right there. And it doesn't actually look like a shot glass right now, and maybe because it's too short. So let's make it look like a shot glass, right? So maybe there's a shot glass size versus, you know, versus your cup. So if you had an employer or your boss come to you, right, and he was like, I need you to make 25 of these cups. They need to all be different sizes. We were trying to figure out, you know, what's going to be the next cup size. This is the way to do it, right? You would want to go in Grasshopper. You'd want to set up a simple cup, and then you'd want to add these number sliders to it, right? And you'd want to be able to control where you want it, and you'd want to be able to create your different sizes, bake them out real quick, and it'd be much faster doing it like this than it would be if you tried to do each individual cup in Rhino, right? You'd have to do circle, circle, move it up, loft. You'd have to do all this stuff, right? This, all you got to do is move a number slider. And that is going to complete this video.